Hi, I'm Karina. I am a registered dietitian and I am going to start making videos about my experience and my tips and hopefully answer any questions that you have. So this video is going to be about what I learned from not passing the DTR exam on my first try. So I took my DTR exam back in 2019, I think, and I felt like I studied a lot and I felt like I was totally prepared. I studied everything, like all of the material. I went through the entire book that I had, which was the Mometrix, I think, a yellow book. I forget what it was, but I can write it in the description once I look it up. So I studied all of the material front to back, took the practice test, and then I also got the flashcards from somebody that I knew. And the book was a few years old. It wasn't the newest version, but I thought it was fine. I figured close enough. So I also used the flashcards, but honestly, the flashcards were the exact same thing as what was in the book. And it wasn't even like, a flashcard is supposed to be, I think, a condensed version of the whole explanation. So just the answer kind of, and I think like the main point. And then in your head, you should know why, for example, right? So at least I think that's what's most effective. But these flashcards were literally just like a paragraph explanation of, like the answer was the whole paragraph explanation that was in the book, like word for word. I think it was the same company. The flashcards were from the same company as the book that I had. So it wasn't really that much of a difference. It wasn't any different from the book, I think, except for the flashcards were newer. So that's why I was using them and trying to compare. But it honestly was the same thing. So I didn't spend too much time on the flashcards because I had already gone through the whole book. So, what else? I had also made my own flashcards from the book, and yeah, basically thought I was prepared. So I went to the exam, and what happened was that I got very stressed, very nervous, just from the whole setup. And I hadn't taken one of those exams before, like those Pearson, where you go to a test center. I don't think I had done that before, so I didn't really know what to expect, and I think that made it even more stressful for me, on top of the fact that I was already nervous. So that was one thing. I was really nervous. I felt like I just blanked out because I was so nervous, and I was so distracted because I wasn't expecting to be in a room with other people, and that's what it's like. So they check you in and everything, and you can't take anything. It's all in the rules. But then in the room, they give you headphones to block out the sound, which it doesn't. And I could still hear everything. I could hear like people moving, or if somebody coughed, or people coming in and out, things like that. So I wasn't prepared for that, so that threw me off, and I was getting distracted. Mainly just because I wasn't prepared for that. Had I been prepared for that, then you know, I would have been mentally prepared, and I would have been able to deal with it, which I was after, you know, once I took the exam again the second time. So yeah, that's one thing, that you have to be prepared to, you know, have sounds from people and have like a little bit of distraction. It's not going to be completely quiet. That was one thing that threw me off. And then I feel like the stress level that came from all of that just made me forget everything that I had studied, and that's how I felt. So I think that was the main thing, because I really did feel like I had studied everything, and I had worked in a hospital for a few years at this point, like 3 or 4. So I felt like with my work experience plus studying, I should have been prepared. I should have been fine. I should have passed the exam on the first try. And so basically, when I signed up to retake the exam, I didn't sign up for it right away because life, and I figured, what's the point? And because my plan was always to become a registered dietitian, so I thought, oh, I don't even need my DTR really if I'm not going to get a DTR job. And at the time, there weren't that many DTR job openings that I was finding. So anyway, I didn't sign up for it again right away. So when I finally did, I thought, it was because I wanted something else to add to my resume, because I had been out of college for a few years and just working. So I figured, like, once I applied to an RD internship, a dietetic internship again, that they would probably think like, okay, you've been working in hospitals since you graduated from college, but what else have you done? You know, because it was only part-time jobs. Yeah, I was never full-time. So I figured they would ask, like, what else were you doing aside from just working? You know, like, were you volunteering, or what else did you accomplish in like 4 or 5 years that you since you graduated? So and I had applied to internships. Maybe this would be better saved for another video, but basically that's why I was taking the DTR exam again, to add to my resume, to have it look better for when I applied to dietetic internships, or to even start working as a DTR while I got a dietetic internship, because that wasn't happening as quickly as I thought it was going to. So when I signed up for it again, basically I had life stuff happen, and I was not able to dedicate that much time to studying, because it was just family stuff, health related things with family that I had to be a part of, and I had to be there with my family and spend a lot of time just being with family in a hospital and stuff like that. So and that went on for, I think, a few weeks, and it was the weeks leading up to my exam, so it was literally just the timing of it. And I didn't want to reschedule my exam, because at that point I was kind of like, I'm not going to reschedule it. Things happen for a reason. At least I've already taken the DTR exam once. I have an idea of what it looks like, what they're going to ask. I'm familiar with the exam location. If I have to take it a third time, I will, kind of thing. So I was kind of just hoping that it would be fine, I guess. So basically I was only studying in the car when we were driving to the hospital and stuff. So I had also I had gotten the DTR Study Buddy exam guide from a diet tech who had just passed his exam. So he gave that to me on PDF, and I had it on my Google Drive, and I would just study off of my phone in the car. So I didn't make flashcards this time because the first time I made flashcards, and it honestly didn't help me because I wasn't using them the right way. I feel like at the time I just hadn't figured out what worked for me, what study methods worked for me, and I was just making flashcards just to make flashcards, just because I thought that that's what you do and that's the way to do it and that's how you'll memorize and learn. So the first time I made those flashcards, but honestly I was just writing a ton and not actually like making the information stick and understanding why. I was just trying to memorize what was on the flashcard. So anyway, this time around, because of everything that happened, I was also one other thing that I learned from the first time of taking it was that I had studied the whole entire book, but I feel like I didn't know everything because I had just tried to look at everything and study everything, that it almost just became all a blur when I was stressed, and there weren't things that I knew for sure. It was just like everything I knew halfway, and I was hoping that I would be able to just recognize the answers when I saw it, and kind of just eliminate and figure out the right answer. And that was not an effective way of studying. So the second time around, I think it was a combination of like the family problems that I was that we were dealing with. So not having so much time to dedicate to the studying, plus learning from what I did the first time, which was just study the whole book rather than the quality of my studying, if that makes sense. That basically the second time I decided I have less time to dedicate to studying, so I'm not going to make flashcards. I'm not going to sit there for hours and study. So basically my studying has to be quality over quantity, basically. So like I said, my studying was mostly in the car as we were driving to and from places, and from DTR Study Buddy and on my Google Drive. And what I focused on was the things that I knew for sure that they always ask. So basically, I feel like they always ask about like sources of vitamins and minerals. So that is one thing that I remember getting stuck on the first time that I took the exam, because the answers that they give you are so similar that you have to know for sure which one is the one that separates the answer from the other potential answers. Because if you've already looked into it, you know that they say that you have to pick the best answer. So there are several answers that, or more than one answer could be correct, but you still have to pick the best answer. So that is where it doesn't work to just be able to recognize the answer or be able to like kind of know, or that you think you'll be able to eliminate from the choices. That's where it doesn't really work, because of the 4 options that they give you, like they'll be almost exactly the same except for one thing that's different in this one and one thing that's different in this one. and then like maybe we'll have like 2 things that are different. So like you'll be able to eliminate, you know, maybe 1 for sure if you know that this food for sure does not have a high zinc content, for example. So you'll be able to eliminate maybe 1, and then after that, like, you might be able to eliminate a second one, but then from there, it's like these 2 are so similar except for 1 thing, and that 1 thing, like in a list of foods, will be something that you know does have zinc, for example, or like thiamine, or like, you know, B1 vitamin, but it's not the highest in B1 or zinc or whatever, iron, whatever they're asking. So that's where you really have to know for sure which foods, for example, would be the highest in zinc. Not just which foods have zinc, which foods would be the highest in zinc, for example. So those are the questions that really like I knew like that was hard to eliminate, and I probably got them wrong, and yeah. So those are the things that I focused on memorizing more for the second time around, like the food sources of vitamins and minerals. And plus that's important, you know, that's something that you're always going to need. So I didn't get to finish the video earlier because I had to go into a class, but I just wanted to finish tonight because otherwise I know I won't get to it if I put it off. So basically, the other thing that I remembered that made a big difference was that I also did not finish the exam. So I just took way too long on the questions that I wasn't sure of, that I didn't know the answers to, just like those that I said about like the list of foods that I was trying to eliminate. I just took so long on those because I was like, no, I know this one, I know it, like I can't just guess and move on, like I have to get this one right, like I studied this so much, like I don't want to just guess and get it wrong at the last minute, that I spent so much time on those, and I didn't pace myself, and I wasn't paying attention to like my time, my speed, like how far along I was. Like I kind of just thought like, oh, once I'm getting closer to the end, I'll just like guess on the rest, and like and yeah, so honestly, you can't pass the exam if you don't finish it. So who knows if I would have finished the exam, if I would have passed it. I don't know because I didn't finish it. But that was the other thing that kind of gave me some confidence in a weird way, that this and the reason why I didn't want to reschedule it after everything that was happening, I just kind of told myself like, you know what, the first time I didn't even finish the exam, so this time I might not have a lot of time to dedicate to studying everything, and I have a lot going on, but maybe the second time at least I'll finish the exam, and that will be like a step forward. And if I have to take it a third time, that's fine, because the person who gave me the DTR Study Buddy actually said that, well, like I had heard that people, you know, had taken it up to 3 times before they passed it, and so I was kind of just like trying to not be so hard on myself the second time, and I was just telling myself, you know what, this second time, I'm still gonna take it. I'm not gonna push it back. It's gonna be another learning experience, and I will just finish the exam this time. And so that was another like goal that I had set for myself, and I was okay with it at the time because we had a lot going on. And what was the other thing? The other thing that I focused on a lot, aside from in addition to the sources of vitamins and minerals, was calculations, or word calculations, because that's also something that you can't guess on. Like the math, it's math, you know? So that was another thing that I for sure wanted to just be 100% sure, and at least that's one question that I would get right for sure if I just knew the math and I felt confident about that. And that would be a for sure thing, because you can't get it wrong if you know the formula, if you know how to calculate it, you know? And I've always been good at math, so to me that was like a strong point for me, that if I just knew the calculations, those would be some questions that I would just feel very confident about, rather than like the other things that are more like the questions that are more like situational, and you know, like what would you do if you saw this, and you know, stuff like that, which I feel like I had good background in because of working in hospitals, that I felt like I was good with like situations. I already knew like how it kind of works and what to do in situations, like the chain of command and stuff like that. So that was another thing that I focused on, and I think I just changed my technique of quality over quantity, and setting the goal of just finishing the exam and keeping my pace better. That was another thing that I really worked on, and yeah, I passed it the second time. And honestly, I studied less material, but the material that I did study was like, I know it 100,000%. Like, yeah, like I just knew it. Like I was very, very confident about it. I knew it like without a doubt. And the other thing that I did to be able to memorize that stuff like perfectly was that I started coming up with, sorry, I feel like the lighting's really bad. I started coming up with like ways to remember like the lists, for example, instead of just like memorizing it and cramming it into my head. I was I don't know how to explain it. Like if it was like B6, like I remember envisioning the number 6 and like the shape of it, and that's how I remembered the food sources of B6, because it was like, oh, this one is a round object, or like round food, and like all of them are round foods that like in the shape of the 6, and that's how we remembered it. I don't remember them now, to be honest, but or not all of them. I know obviously eggs is one of them. And then, for example, like B1, I had another way of remembering it. I would remember them by like the syllables, like B2, like riboflavin, B2. Niacin, I remember like niacin and being like 1, 2, 3, and then like that reminds me of, you know, so kind of just like, I can't remember the examples now, but like connecting something that it sounded like with the food source, or just finding like connections between like for example, if niacin, you know, starts with an N, and like one of the food sources like started with an N and one started with an I and one started with an A, like kind of like that. And that is what I did for the RD exam, and I can share more of my tips on how I passed the RD exam in another video. And in that video I will go through my notes that I made and give like actual examples. It's just that the DTR exam I don't remember anymore because it was a while ago. So yeah, it was more just the quality of my studying versus the quantity. And I would say those were the main things that I learned from not passing the DTR exam on the first try. And I think that's it. And I will be making another video on how I passed the RD exam on my first try. And I do give a lot of credit to having taken the DTR exam twice, because you just have like that experience of being at the test site, at the test center, and like you know what it's going to be like. You've seen it before, you've driven there before, you know what the computers are like. So obviously I'm not saying that you should not pass the test the first time just to get exposure to the test center and then retake it, because obviously that's money and who would want to do that? But I'm letting you know so that you know that maybe you can like do a practice test at a library or somewhere where it's still quiet but there's some distractions and some noise, and time yourself. And I think quality over quantity, because really you don't need a perfect score. I guess that's just what I learned, and I just wanted to share, and that was my experience. And even if it doesn't relate with you, or you know, like you can't relate to it, I hope this helps somebody. And if you have any questions for me about anything, about the DTR exam, the RD exam, getting a dietetic internship, studying nutrition, honestly anything, please leave questions. And I hope to be making more videos, because this is what I always wanted to do. And when I was studying, I always thought I really want to help people. I really want to share what I know now, what I wish people would have told me. I know with YouTube, there's a lot more people out there now making these kinds of videos, which is great, because you'll find somebody that you connect with, hopefully, or that had a similar experience to you, hopefully, and that can give you, you know, different kinds of advice. So yeah, I think that's it. So I'll end here, and just let me know if you guys have any questions, requests for other videos, thoughts, what other videos you want to see, what you want to hear about, what you want me to talk about. Yeah, so thank you. Bye.